Can Miami compete for an ACC championship under Mario Cristobal in 2023? It's a question that a lot of people are asking, and many expect Miami to get back on track. It's just a matter of when. We're going to take a look at the schedule this year, as well as what Miami brings back in terms of talent, and then also how do they get back to being who Miami should be? Now, the schedule isn't anything crazy in the first three games outside of Texas A&M. Obviously, that is going to be a big game, but Texas A&M also took a step back last year. The unfortunate part is that Miami also was struggling last year. So if you can get through the Miami Ohio game pretty much unscathed, don't have too many hiccups. It is week one, so let's give some of these kids a little bit of time to get going. Hosting Texas A&M is going to be a huge game because that is a potential opportunity to make a statement. And Miami wasn't able to do that on the road against Texas A&M last year. They have another opportunity to do that. So there's a good chance they could be 3-0, 4-0 heading into the Georgia Tech game. Georgia Tech probably will be better in 2023, but I don't expect them to be anything crazy. I don't expect them to all of a sudden be a bowl team because of what happened. They have a lot to figure out, and it's just a matter of how Miami navigates that game in terms of putting up points, winning comfortably. It is an ACC game, so maybe with Miami's struggles in the last couple years, maybe that game is closer, but I expect Miami, with what they've been able to do to bring in talent, to be able to get things back on track. They're doing all the right things in the offseason. They just have to put that product on the field. The first big test within the ACC is going to be the trip to North Carolina on October 14th. Playing Drake May is going to present a ton of challenges. That offense is going to be phenomenal for North Carolina, and that's really tough for a group that is looking to bounce back and get better. And when you throw in that Clemson is right around the corner after that the next week, that makes things even more difficult. That's an extremely tough two-game stretch when you have to travel to Chapel Hill and then host Clemson. Now, can they win both of these games? That remains to be seen. I think they can definitely beat North Carolina, even if they aren't as good as everyone wants them to be. I just don't think that they're going to beat Clemson. I do not think that they're on that level. And there's a little bit of ways to go, but they can definitely get to that point. Maybe they surprise us, but right now, I think if you're betting money, you're betting on Clemson coming to town and winning that game. Virginia the week after should be a win. Tony Elliott has a lot to figure out with that Virginia program. At NC State isn't the challenge that it might have been last year, but it's still going to be tough. I think that offense is going to look significantly different. And the defense, while it does lose a handful of key pieces, has some veterans returning as well. So Miami has their hands full, even with some of these teams taking steps back. The week after that is another tough two-game stretch. That seems to be a little bit of a theme here for Miami at Florida State. Florida State is a team competing for a national championship this year. Everybody believes that they can be up there. They're kind of like the NC State of what everybody anticipated in the ACC, whether that's good or not. NC State last year obviously did not meet expectations. Miami is going to face a team that has those similar NC State expectations coming into 2023. I just think Florida State is a better team and more explosive team, and that's going to provide challenges for Miami. And it depends on how they're doing at this point, because if they have three losses heading into that game, I don't think that they win against Florida State. If they're playing with one or two, then maybe that's a different story. Louisville comes to town after that, and then a trip to Boston College, though, should be a win, could be a little bit difficult. Again, it really depends on if Mario Cristobal is able to get this team playing at a better level, because what we saw in the last year, even in the last couple years, is a team that is not really figuring things out. They are not headed in the right direction, and a lot needs to be resolved before we can firmly believe that Miami is headed back. But if you're going to look at someone that's doing the right thing, Mario Cristobal is doing all the right things off the field. He is bringing in kids from the transfer portal. He's bringing in kids for his recruiting classes. He is bringing the talent to campus. It's just a matter of translating that to the field. Now, when you look on paper, Miami is an extremely talented team. This is a really, really good team, and there's a lot of potential in this group. Everything is going to start with the quarterback position. Now, Tyler Van Dyke, to many, is the starting quarterback. And at one point, we were talking about Tyler Van Dyke as a potential first round pick. He has that talent, he has that ball placement, that arm talent to be able to make things happen and make this offense even better. It's just a matter of consistency. Now, what does this look like under a new system? Josh Gaddish was not the right fit for this team. He was not the right offensive coordinator for this group. And I think that's going to help a guy like Tyler Van Dyke get back on track. Now, when you look at what he has around him, Henry Parrish is one of the more underrated players in college football at the running back position. He is going to be fun to watch. The question just comes down to who's going to catch the ball for Tyler Van Dyke. Now, Kobe Young, really exciting player, could be that big time pass catcher for Miami. They do lose a couple of pass catchers. That's going to hurt. But again, as we mentioned before, Mario Cristobal is bringing in talent to be able to compete, to be able to handle things and step in and play right away. Now, up front, I don't have too many concerns because I believe that this is going to be one of the more talented offensive lines in the conference, and that's going to be good for them. Now, where I think Miami is really going to thrive this year, I think this is going to be a really good unit, is on the defensive side of the ball. When you look at the defensive line, Akeem Mesidor, Leonard Taylor, both coming back this year. Thomas Gore is coming back. Branson Dean, you have a lot of talent on the defensive line. And that is huge because when you're competing, look at what Clemson did last year with that defensive line. You're telling me that a lot of their issues weren't masked by a defensive line that dominated. If Miami can do what Clemson did last year, now I'm not saying that they have the same talent as a Clemson does, but when you have so much talent on the defensive line, that can cover up a lot of issues that you have. That being said, I don't see too many issues. If you anything, if you're going to find the weakness of this defense, it's going to be at linebacker. And even then, not really that big of a weakness. You look at Corey Flagg coming back, 10 and a half tackles for loss last year, 56 tackles total. You're looking at a group that, again, probably the weakness of a group, but this group is going to be really good. Secondary, no problems there. Devontae Brown comes in from UCF. James Williams and Cameron Kinchins return. Both of them future NFL talent. That is going to be a phenomenal group and extremely talented group. One that I don't have too many concerns about, if any. And that's going to be huge because this is an ACC conference that has maybe not the most explosive offenses, but there are some extremely talented offenses. And it's not going to matter if your offense obviously has to figure things out. But if your defense can't stop anybody, it doesn't matter if your offense is good or not. So I think Miami, the biggest thing for them, they have a good defense. The other thing is they're bringing in talent. So they have things going for them. I think that the pieces are in place. If you look at what Mario Cristobal has done since arriving on campus, there's a lot to like about where Miami is headed. It's just a matter of getting there. And now that's easier said than done. But this is a group that has the potential to do it. I don't know if we had that last year. I don't know if we were just looking past the fact that maybe there are a lot of holes in Miami's roster. There are a lot of weaknesses on that roster. This year doesn't feel like it's the same thing. It feels like this is a better group. It feels like even if they're not competing for an ACC championship, they're going to be better in 2023. And long term, that's really good. Now, you have to take that step for people to believe. And I think that they do that this year at a minimum.